Welcome back to Val Verde Commentaries. Welcome, everybody. I'm stalling because, of course, I haven't prepared an intro. I'm Duncan Casey, and to my virtual left is Dr. Richard Jackson. One of those three words is untrue, but that's fine.
It's true, yeah. It's true, it's untrue. But maybe I got a doctorate from the University of Tijuana or something, he used to say.
It depends what your definition of is. Anyway, welcome back to...
wasn't.
Indeed. Welcome back to our commentaries. It's been a long time since we did one of these, but as you know, we have committed to doing regular content, and like the albatross around our neck that it is... No, I'm kidding. It's a pleasure. We are making good on our half promises. So... today, in what feels like an appropriate moment, although we shan't get into that, we are dealing with a post-apocalyptic future of Mad Max. But not as you know him, not as half Australian, half American, drunk anti-Semite Mel Gibson.
Alcoholic, racist Mel Gibson.
But alcoholic Brit Tom Hardy. Don't know if he's racist.
Do we know if he's alcoholic? Legally speaking,
we'll have a look back.
Allegedly.
Let's look at the state.
Or not at all. We're talking. Oh, the joys of working on a really low rent channel where no one cares enough to see you. Apparently, lives around here. Tom Hardy.
Oh, right. Oh.
In Sussex, allegedly. So it's I've been told.
We'll add it to the list of alleged.
Yes.
Tom
yes. Yeah.
He lived. I tell you where he did live for a while was in the same block of flats as my brother-in-law.
Oh yes, yeah. I remember you saying, yeah. He joins such luminaries of Sussex as Chris Eubank and Katie Price.
Oh, Chris Eubank, yes. Does he say hello? That's where he gets all his voices from. Now I understand.
Oh shit! Yeah,
every Tom Hardy voice in everything is.
That was very face jacker as well, though.
Was it?
Yeah, but I'm kind of wondering if Kayvan Novak took that a bit from Eubank. Like,
you mean the George Abdul-Duquengo
guy?
Yeah. The good afternoon. I suppose so, because it's that sort of back of the. So Chris Eubank, but obviously he has that speech impediment. I don't know if I'm allowed to do. I'd
probably leave it if it's too late now. It's too late now.
But that's what he is. He does sound like that, so there is that. But I love Chris Eubank. He drives a fucking Mack lorry. That's his daily driver.
That's quite impressive around here because there's some rather tight roads.
Yes, coastal roads. I hope it doesn't go to Cornwall. Anyway. Yes, Tom Hardy. I guess I can do Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's voice in everything now seems to be that kind of, that's what I talk like. I'm sort of Tom Hardy. I come from South London.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. We'll get into it. Should we crack on and we can talk?
Let's crack on. So I don't.
Tom's Hardy.
It's filling the airways with bullshit. His real name is Edward. Oh, there you go. Oh. Yes, let's crack on with Max Murray. Furry load.
Miffed Malcolm. Furious cul-de-sac. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to get ready to... If you line up your copy, everyone, at home of Mad Max Fury Road, and we're gonna start on turn. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, turn. And we're off.
Hey,
starting with a rusty chrome Warner Brothers logo. It occurred to me, this just seemed like we talked about doing this as a commentary, and it was like this was my float. I was like, Duncan, let's do this, and you were like, yeah. And it just occurred to me today that we watched this together in the cinema, which I'd forgotten.
Yes, well, I was going to bring that up.
We watched it with
Ken Bruce. Mad Max Fury Road. The View Cinema. No, I don't know where we were.
I think it was the View. I think it was the View in Cambridge.
Very good. I remember it was it was the first time I went in. After they had what's the word?
Oh, the big seats and everything.
The refurbishment, yeah. So that was quite cool. Because it was 2014?
Yeah, 14 or 15, I think. It was like we reviewed it. I remember at the time, the pair of us had quite a similar... It was like, yeah, it's good, but... and I kind of felt like we'd both had we'd both had a bit of a long day or something. Because I'm not insanely mad. I like this movie a lot, but I'm not I'm not bananas over it.
It's the only Mad Max film apart from this. I've seen the second one through once, drunk,
right,
and this. That's it. I've never really seen.
Oh, you've never seen the other ones? Okay, they're really interesting. I mean, I like this more the more I watch it. I think it's just a very good. It's a good example of a simple story, well told, with a shitload of momentum. And that's quite literal in this because it's about the Fury Road. So it's all the cars, all the vehicles moving down the road and everything, similar to the Mad Max films. Because it's sort of a chase format, but it's got kind of other elements to it and everything. And I do see, because people often point to this as like, this was the cool blockbuster. And it did sort of come out of nowhere. It was like, oh, Mad Max is back and they've recast Max but it's still George Miller, because they were trying to get this off the ground shortly after 2000-ish. They were building vehicles and stuff, but it never went anywhere with Miller. And Brendan McCarthy's one of the other kind of big voices behind this. I think it's really cool. I do think it's really cool. I don't go out I'm not totally nuts for it, but I get it, is what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way. Yeah,
I'm very much in the same camp. I think it's there's nothing wrong with. I think. Do you know what it is? I think you and I have a not disdain, but a sort of general apathy towards sort of fantasy stuff, and I think this straddles that kind of like does play in that, and I think that's that element of it that doesn't really connect as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? They're all going on about Valhalla and fucking this, and then you go like, well, either I buy into that or I don't, and at times I don't, and at other times I do, and it's kind of the chase aspect of it is more interesting, but that side of it, once you've seen the film, is sort of done. And then unless you buy into the, I hate this word, but lure, then you're not really going to be asked about it, eh?
Right. Do you know I've got something that, to articulate my feelings to what kind of fantasy stuff, and this isn't necessarily that, as like you say, it kind of toes that line.
It's for cunts.
Oh God!
I shouldn't put words in your mouth.
Is that quoting you, Richard Jackson?
I've got it here in writing.
In writing, I think that the feeling I get when I've watched like a fantasy film or fantasy type stuff, I feel that I've been sat in a room with the heating turned up way high, being forced to wear a big coat and then eat like a giant birthday cake. You know what I mean? It's kind of stodgy and uncomfortable and kind of... and I kind of... The first time we watched this, I kind of had that feeling, and I can't remember if it was one of the cases that the cinema was a bit hot that day or something. Because we went back to my now old, soon-to-be old place to record the review of this. And you and I were both like, hey, it's good, but it's not that good, and I'm mildly grumpy. So because this is spectacular. I love all this. Like, there's this chase and everything.
Yeah.
All the nice little bits of lore. I just think the camera work and the lighting is just top notch. The idea it's kind of like the classy version of doing Power Rangers baddies, in that the war boys all look the same, right? So you have been pursued by these horde of ghost-like figures and stuff. I think all of that's really, really cool. But yeah, it's something I've come to appreciate over time, and I think I just wasn't in a great spot when I watched it initially, is what I've taken really quite some time to say.
Yeah, I like I say, my history with this series is pretty limited, and I think I saw the second one after I'd seen this one, so this is probably the first Mad Max I really watched end to end. And look, I think if this is the best way to do this kind of legacy sequel thing that Hollywood doesn't seem to really get right very often. I do think it's that thing of like, just make it a modern thing. Like if you're gonna, who's a great modern day sort of nutter? Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy. I was gonna do Mad Max. I've decided I'm gonna play Mad Max. That's what it is. And it's like, all right.
Oh dear.
Because he sort of has an Australian accent at some point.
It's just like, okay, because they do, I really like how his muzzle is made out of a trowel, but they keep him on the back seat for quite some time. He's like, he can't speak and his face is obscured and stuff, and Yeah, you're right. He kind of does the accent a bit, but then he just sort of doesn't, and it's like, you know. And I do get a little bit like, I'm careful about my words, but you know that thing about how Tom Hardy's like the most amazing actor ever, and it's like, no, he's in a handful of films you like, and your girlfriend wants to fuck him. That's not the same. It's not the same as him being the most. I don't think he's a particularly varied performer, for example.
Well,
like
this is what I mean about the accent thing, right? So it's like, oh, Tom Hardy. That to him seems to amount to character work. See also Bane. You know, see also. Peaky Blinders.
He did it in a Sky advert, and it was him using some lumpen metaphor about sugar.
Yeah,
it's like, you use the sugar to buy the Sky, and it's like, are you voiced by Jim Henson? No one actually speaks, particularly not in London. Like nobody speaks like that. I mean, like apart from you, evidently.
I like him. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. This is not a sort of.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the bashing tomorrow thing because I will quite happily watch him.
Yeah, he's eminently watchable in the same way that's not in the same way, but in a similar way to how Oliver Reed was very watchable, and he's often sort of considered it. I think that's frankly giving him far too much credit, but in that sense of like sort of being a dangerous performer, like he's interesting to watch, or he's intriguing to watch because he sort of has that dangerous quality about him. Yeah, I think Tom Hardy's good at that. He's good at being unpredictable. But once you see the bag of tricks, I've said this a million times, but once you're privy to his bag of tricks, which is, as I say, talking like this, like a fucking like I'm 70, I've had a stroke, and I used to sell drugs in London. I am sorry, but it's like not every character, that's not always exciting, and that's to obviously very, very much downplay his efforts in a frankly fatuous way. But
we've talked about before, right? There's a difference, and there's nothing wrong with this. There's a difference between being a movie star and being an actor.
Yeah.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger was an amazing movie star. Was he an amazing actor? Not really, but that's not why we love him. And there's plenty of stuff I've seen Tom Hardy in. I just get annoyed by this, like, oh, he's the greatest actor ever. And it's like, no, he's in stuff you like. It's not this, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like from the technical craft of acting, I'm not all that sure.
Yeah, and we have way more, I would argue, like Jason Isaacs is a great actor. Even Mark Strong to an extent, though I do think Mark Strong has sort of continued to simply do. He's found his niche now, which is fine.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of come quite typecast. But then what? He's probably getting into he's in his mid-50s, is he? That's a nice, comfortable way to see out your career in it. Like,
yeah.
He's great. Weirdly, and I will digress, I watched Cruella the other night on Disney Plus.
Said, yes.
I really liked it because Mark Strong was in it, you see. I really liked it. A really great period romp, and it's quite long, and I didn't really feel like it wasted its runtime, and I think I just really like Emma Stone generally. So anyway, I'll leave that where it is. People are going to be like, you don't fucking like Tom Hardy, but you like Cruella. Yeah, that's right. Come at me.
Who doesn't like Emma Stone? I think Emma Stone's a fantastic performer.
She's brilliant. She is brilliant.
Yeah. No problem with that. I may well check it out. It's on Disney Plus, I'm assuming.
Yes. That's where I watched it. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
So the Mad Max films have very humble roots, really.
Yes.
Like, I would implore you to watch the first one if you ever get the chance, because it's the second one's the best one, I think.
Right.
It's one of those things that Mad Max was among those things you were supposed to have watched when you were a kid, and it would be next to like Tango and Cash on a shelf in your mate's house type stuff. And the second one's where it really hits its stride, and what's interesting about them is they are more or less all standalone. And what I kind of like about this is, I believe, and please correct me if you're wrong, Mad Max superfans, he has his car. I think he still has remnants of his leg brace, because they do carry those bits of continuity forward, because he smashes his leg in the first one. He's got a leg brace from the second one. He has to intercept a car, blah, blah, blah. But I believe in the first one, I can never get this right. In the first one, I think he's shown to have a son, and then in the flashback stuff in this, it's a daughter, or the other way around. So it's kind of like deliberately playing fast and loose with its own continuity. And it's like, yeah, sure, why not? Because, Max has now got a completely different face and voice, so why not? And I'm being serious. And it's sort of like, in a way, I kind of like how this series prioritizes the story over the character. And as long as Max is there, well enough, then you've got a Mad Max movie. And I think that's kind of what they're saying a bit with this. I don't know. And do correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because I'm not the Max super fan, and I know you guys will be tuning in. So
he's a vessel, really, in this, isn't he? I suppose he's a sort of that's his purpose. I mean, his purpose seems largely to simply facilitate a couple of plot points at the end of the day. It's like it's
Furiosa and the kind of slave girls at the front.
Don't go down
really.
there. Go down there, or turn around and go back. And that seems to be his main thing. That's how he affects the plot. Otherwise, he's just simply strapped to the front of a car and sort of driven through a sandstorm, and it really doesn't do much. But it's kind of like, but that's fine.
I love the blood bank concept.
Yes.
That's such a brilliant thing, because they're all anemic and sick, so they have to have blood or whatever it is they're doing. And so you have a human sort of hanging off your car with a drip coming out of them. That's fantastic. It's such a great idea. And it's really kind of invasive and icky, and, it's a kind of very unique indignity to put your main character through. And obviously Max being Max, he can kind of recover from it and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there is that sort of sense, and I think Mel Gibson embodies this very well. That sort of superhuman element to him, where he can sort of survive anything. It's like he's almost like you just buy into it because he's that nuts. And Mel Gibson's always done that very well, in like Lethal Weapon and everything. Even things like Ransom. It's like I buy that he would be that fucking nuts and determined to do things his way. It's like I think that, and I for the well, not unfair, but jab at Mel Gibson earlier. He's a fucking great performer, man. I mean, I know he's got his personal demons, but he's so enigmatic and interesting to watch on screen. And I take a lot. I think there's a lot to learn from how he acts and performs, and that I do think he's someone who sort of is basically a movie star, but every now and again does a turn where it's kind of like, I can see there's more to this.
Well, I think he's got edge to him.
For sure.
Did you ever hear the story about how he got cast? How George Miller cast him in the original Mad Max?
No.
This is.
Oh, can I just interject? Sorry, just
yes,
the little guy in the chair.
Oh, you know him, don't you?
Yeah, I knew him through a. So I followed him on YouTube. He had his Quentin, I think his name is. I was like mates with him on his YouTube because he had a little YouTube channel. I don't know if he still does. Must check that out. But he lovely fella. I shouldn't say little fella, though he is a little fella and lovely. And like we corresponded a bunch before he did this, and then he did this, and obviously it was a big deal, and he's brilliant in it. And I've not heard from him since, but I must check in with him because he was a sweetheart. He interviewed Kevin Smith, I think, as well when this came out.
Oh no shit!
And stuff, yeah. So he kind of because he's Australian, he kind of got a bit of press on that and everything. So yeah, lovely dude. So yes, sorry, mate.
No, that's good timing. Cause I did want to bring that up with you because I remember you saying that you knew.
I'd forgotten until I saw that just now. Yeah, that's a sperm on the floor.
It's just that they wrote that in all the spare chairs. Yes, this is pure fucking IMDb trivia section bait, so do excuse me. But supposedly what happened was Mel Gibson had a friend who was auditioning for Mad Max, and he went along with him, but he had been in like a fight that weekend and had the shit kicked out of him. His face was all swollen and fucked. And obviously they're looking for kind of rough looking, all the Mad Max films have like really rough looking people in them, obviously, 'cause post-apocalypse. And they said, well, can you come back next week when your face is healed up and we'll look at you then? And then they got him to read, once Miller saw him, they got him to read for Max, supposedly. So going back to him sort of having an edge and all that kind of stuff, and being a bit psycho, because it turns out he's a bit of a psycho. I won't go into the other nasty shit surrounding him, but Well, he's got a mania, right? So it's like, I'm certainly not excusing the rants and stuff that he went on, but it's that thing of like he is either he borderline schizophrenia or bipolar, and that you are just, your highs are insane and you can't sit still and you can't you just, stuff comes out of you like that, and I think it made for the roles he did, like Max and like Riggs in Lethal Weapon. I mean, it's that sort of like, you need that manic energy.
which almost feels a bit exploitative now that I think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You kind of.
But he's great. I mean, I do think he's great. I do think he's a really, and in his latter films that he's done in his sort of Nicolas Cage era, he did one. I forget what it was called, where it was like his daughter got involved in, like his estranged daughter got involved in something with a gang, and he had to protect her. And it was a sort of standard story, you know. It's his kind of Taken, if you like, but it was really good. He was really good in it, and you know, and he's a fucking great director as well. It's just a shame about all the races. But there you go. You know, separate the artist from the art.
There you go.
I guess.
Nick Holt is great in this. I really like Nick Holt. He's one of those people that lots of people just wrote off because he's in Skins. It's like all that pretty boy from Skins, or About a Boy as well. And it's like, nah, he's fucking great. Like, he's really good. You know, I think he's got more chops than Hardy personally. I wouldn't cast him as Mad Max. I'd cast fucking Tom Hardy as Max over Nick Holt any day of the week. But
Nick Holt and I auditioned for the same role once.
Oh yes,
and well, I say that he got the role. I didn't. I don't know if he auditioned. He may not have done, but
yeah. But you know, hey-o. We'll let alcoholic racist Mel Gibson off the hook because he didn't go against you.
That's right. That's why I give him leeway.
Yeah.
I love this guy, the guitarist with the fucking flamethrower guitar strapped to a bunch of. It's like, that's your job, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, it's all part of like the deliciously wonky imagery. So this film was developed with George Miller alongside Brendan McCarthy. Brendan McCarthy was originally. He did a lot for 2000 AD back in the day. He did lots of Judge Dredd and stuff like that, and he was indie comic scene and stuff. And then he went a lot of the kind of 80s and 90s British comics folk did, in that he went off to Hollywood to do like storyboarding and stuff. And he worked on the Ninja Turtles film for Golden Harvest, and then Coneheads. Mm-hmm. And I think he got involved with George Miller and Fury Road when it was first being developed. Like I said, like kind of early 2000s-ish, I believe. And he gets like a story credit. So looking at this movie, and I've looked at Brendan McCarthy's art many times. It's in lots of books on my shelves and stuff like that. Brendan McCarthy's sensibility is here.
Right.
Like there's so much Brendan McCarthy in this, and he's got McCarthy's style is really fucking out there. Like, he always did the really wonky stuff, and he did a lot of stuff. Obviously, Judge Dredd has the Cursed Earth, and did you ever, the character Chopper from 2000 AD? He's like a sky surfer that Judge Dredd fails
You told me about him.
Right. Oh yeah, we did it for a podcast once. So a lot of that's set in the Australian outback.
Okay.
So and in Australia, and then so Brendan McCarthy's look, like all the crazy vehicles, particularly the one that looks like I think it's a VW. It looks like a hedgehog. It's just covered in spikes.
Yeah.
And that guy's buboes all over his neck, and like the reason I thought this was the time to bring that up was because Guitar Guy is pure McCarthy-ish, and these sand people with the goggles and stuff is very
Dune buggy with it.
Hedgehogmobile.
Yeah, I mean it's very much it's style over substance, but on purpose. That's the point, isn't it? It's like, what if you issued, how to put it? It's that thing. It taps into that sort of human thing of like, what if you just gave up your fucking, like you were just like balls to the wall, animalistic, like ride or die kind of. It's that sort of thing. But
the tribalism and stuff like that, and the Mad Max world is all about kind of the weird gangs and tribes and things. It's a bit like the Warriors in that sense, I suppose.
Well, because it does that thing of like because Furiosa and Nick Holt's character, they're the ones that really change, right? They're the ones who are sort of changed by it. They're the characters who are affected, and Max is the he's the immovable object, or he's the unstoppable force, depending on how you look at it. He's just sort of there, and it's their story in the sense of they're the ones who are sort of involved in the plot, really.
It's it's all this forward momentum, literally and figuratively, and he's just the kind of Max is the eye of the storm, if you like, and it's very telling that he's sort of, the film ends with him giving a wink and a nod and walking off, and my work here is done, because that character's a loner and stuff like that, and it's what happens at the end of the Road Warrior. Is like, we never bloody saw him again, mate. That's my Australian accent. So like Road Warrior does that, and Mad Max 3 is a strange one. It has a lot of defenders. I think its tone is close to this one, but it's all kind of Tina Turner and Thunderdomes and stuff. It's pretty bananas as a movie. I remember not liking it a lot at the time, but it's been years since I watched it. I think the first one is rough. I mean, there's this real kind of era of like really rough, grimy Antipodean cinema from the kind of 70s and 80s. Like those movies really had this look, and they're all in this kind of like nasty film stock, and they always feel like they've got an edge. And like, yeah, Mad Max is great, but Road Warrior builds on it and is kind of better, but stands alone. But it's got this real kind of edge to it. Like, it really feels like anything could happen, and it's just this mad, independent Australian, essentially kind of revenge action movie. And I can't remember his guy, Hugh something or other, the guy who plays Immortan Joe plays Toe Cutter in Mad Max. So he played the original Mad Max villain, and he's back. He died, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah, I remember, yeah.
He passed. He passed. I shouldn't joke about someone's death in such a way, but we've done worse on this channel, so why not? This is great as well. The other thing I like about this is it's the perfect example of subtle use of CGI and the blend of, like, Furiosa's arm, pure Brendan McCarthy. It's like this big 3-fingered turtle hand, but like, it looks amazing. It looks seamless. Like the way she's operating machinery with it and everything, and holding guns, and like you can see through her, through the prosthetic, because it would be a green stocking, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think all of that is just so sublime. It just looks so good. And I think as well, witness. I think the when they drive along and they go through the kind of, there are walls either side, like walls either side of them. They drive through that walled area. I think the walls aren't there and they're computer generated. Right. And that's so they could have the freedom to sort of move vehicles safely, because they really had a bunch of vehicles running around and stuff. And
yeah, a lot of it is surprisingly practical, but they do things like the sandstorm was obviously CGI, it's done well. Like, it doesn't, none of it sort of messes with the aesthetic. There's a lot of stuff done with color timing, and a lot of this is augmented. Like, you'd be so surprised with the amount of stuff that's augmented. There was a video that did the rounds recently. There was all the CGI elements of parts of No Time to Die, and it's ridiculous. It's like, there's things like just stuff you'd never think of. Like, they filmed a house by a frozen lake, but there weren't enough snow-covered trees, so they added snow-covered trees, and then they needed to make the sky consistent, so the sky had to be done. Then there wasn't enough sort of frost on the lake, and it's all this making things work better for your story, because you don't want the audience distracted by trees that aren't covered in snow. And you're like, I don't think anyone was thinking, but it's like, it just makes it blend more with the tone and what's going on. And this tonally, look, the tone of the film is very consistent. The colour's very consistent. It's dusty. It's, all the elements in it really work as a piece, as a visual piece. And that's what it is, and it's like this thing of like being in motion, this stuff, the constant road, the chase, as you said, it's sort of, it really works well, because it works well with the kind of, like you say, they're all standalone. You don't have to, as I say, this is really the only Mad Max film I've properly seen. And I know I don't need to know the rest of it. It's like, this is all, all you need to know in the first 5 minutes, and then it's a chase movie, it's a road movie, it's visual. But it does have commentary. It's not like it's completely, one-dimensional at all. So it's great. It's just not, like we said, it's like, it was touted as the sort of second coming when it came out. So I remember everyone being like, "Oh, it's bloody amazing." It's like, well, yeah, it's great. People were making films like this all the time, and then they weren't. And now you're used to this diet of sort of like neutered, impotent crap. Yeah. So of course this stuff stands out. But I'd be interested, because I'm building on your point, Eris. It's kind of like, it's definitely fantastical. It's not really fantasy. It's kind of quasi fantasy. It's like fantastical. It's ridiculous. Yeah, like stuff. I love that, the Sandstorm, because it like that, you take that out and that's
every frame of painting is such a lazy phrase, but that's, you can take frames out of this and they're just these beautifully composed things, and that'll be all CGI and whatever. But take your point about it being kind of like quasi-fantastical. The first one to talk about it again has that kind of grimy Antipodean film stock thing where it kind of feels like a documentary in places. And that is set when society still stands. It's not like this. His wife and kid live in a house, and he works at the police station, and like society's collapsing, but society still exists.
Yeah.
So it has so much more basis in reality, whilst having no basis in reality whatsoever, of course. But it's so much closer to the real world. Whereas this is just nuts. Like, it's so crazy, which is what's great about it. And it's an odd one as well, because I think it's one of those things. It was in the offing for ages. But and when it finally came, it was like, oh, cool, a Mad Max film. I'd be down for a Mad Max film. And then, as you say, it's like, no, it's the most amazing thing ever made in the whole world. And it's like, well, everybody calm down. And then it made $1 gazillion, and it was like, oh, the Mad Max movie made $1 gazillion. Because it's not the Avengers or whatever. And I don't believe that there was this huge baying market for another Mad Max movie. I think what they did was they made a good movie and it marketed well because it was weird and unusual and it had that name brand. But I bet most of fucking teenagers who saw this on a Friday night didn't know what Mad Max was. And good for them as well, because that's how you discover things, and that's wonderful and lovely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it does come with some brand recognition, but I think
I'm not saying none whatsoever, for sure, because Mad Max is a thing for sure, but it had been dormant for like quite some time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just utterly wrong. It wouldn't be the first time.
Well, yeah, it obviously didn't have the kind of zeitgeist, but I think it came at a time when when people were hungry for more sort of something different, I suppose, and something that was daring and. I mean, it's just a visually arresting film, isn't it? It's got so many great visuals in it. I just think people attempted to imbue it with an awful lot more than that, but I don't think that's what the film's necessarily going for. I don't think it's supposed to be. I have this a lot with people that go, "Oh, Tom Hardy or so and so great in this stuff. Just look at him, and it's like when you really break it down, he's doing fuck all." But that's not to say that sometimes that's what you need to do. Sometimes you need to do fuck all. That's the art of great acting, is to know when not to act, right? And it's like, and I do think he's got that, and I do think he's great, but it's like, don't tell me that he's like Sir Laurence Olivier, because he really he's not. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think people are stupid. That's the problem.
We're just bitter old men. We're all fucked anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
Do you know the kind of person who says the kind of person who says things like, "I'm not being funny, but." That person.
Yeah. Yes, I know exactly that person.
Yeah, exactly that person. That's the person who puts a meme out that's a picture of Tom Hardy with the caption like, "I didn't come here to make friends," or you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's a picture of him from when he was in Peaky Blinders, or like just a picture of him with his shirt off with a kind of random spiky quote that he didn't say. It's the sort of office twat version of grannies putting random quotes on Minions. Like it's that kind of happy shopper level. I spent 70 quid on Beardall this month, boring off his cuntness.
It's the sort of opinionated, incurious twat that.
Thank you. That's better.
Write. Yeah, I mean, I and definitely not to make this political, but someone was writing political. Where was I? It's on it was on one of our local group for where we live. On Facebook. Totally parochial. No one gives a fuck. And they were going on about politics, I think, or something. But they would always end everything. Well, I know. But they would end every post with, "But I'm not here to debate." And it's like, then why are you here? Like, what's... I've had this with people before. It's like, well, I have nothing to learn from you. I have nothing to learn from this group or these people or whatever. And it's like, that's not... that level of incuriousness.
Kind of groups to report people like not putting their bins out or letting their dog shit on the green.
Exactly.
That shit,
complain about people parking on the pavement and shit like that. It's
sad
not about
parochial cunts.
it's not a place to where. But quite apart from the venue, I was just like, why would you? These, because this happens a lot, and it's not just in groups like that. It's all over the place where people will go like, statement, such and such. I'm not here to debate, and it's like, what is the internet if not a forum for debate? Surely, like, you don't enter into groups and stuff like that. Well, you just came here to bestow us with your wisdom and fuck off, did you? Like, what are you here for? Like, I don't understand this sort of this monologue type, because you see it in film stuff all the time, don't you? Like, Tom Hardy is the best actor ever, and these are the same people, and I know this happens in our group, and I know I'm known for this now, but fuck it, I want to make this a thing. These twats who go like, Tom Hardy's the best actor ever. Thoughts? So stop saying thoughts. Like, I hate that as a sort of demand.
I just get annoyed, but I get annoyed by one-word questions.
Oh God!
Like,
yeah.
it's just, there's something so lazy about it. It's like someone says something and then someone just goes link, and it's like not do you have a link? Link. It's like, don't talk to me like that, you fuck. Spit that gum out straight in your back, look me in the eye, you lazy cunt. And that's coming from me. I spent most of today in like Primark trackies. Like, I ate an entire box of chocolates in 3 minutes earlier, and I don't care who knows it.
Oh, that was right around the time I told Richard that my daughter had the shits, and I had just been picking poo out of her.
They were really bougie chocolates that Simon got me from a conference. Anyway, Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road. They do a thing. See, this speaks to the sort of grimness of Max, right? Because he was just going to blow his hand off.
Yes.
But the powder's wet or something, so it doesn't work. So he was quite prepared to. And you see, there's a bit where Max in one of the previous films, he handcuffs a guy to a car that's about to explode, and he's like, car's going to explode in 4 minutes. It will take you 5 minutes to cut through the handcuff. It will take you 2 minutes to cut through your arm. Just chucks him with saw and walks away.
Yeah.
Right. So he's really fucking like, let's not forget what a rough cunt Max is. What I like before that is that when he's under the sand, it's presented like a landscape, like that's a hill or a mountain.
Right.
You can tell it's him, but it's a nice little bit. It's a bit like how Indiana Jones likes to melt in the Paramount logo, to the mountain all the time. So it's just a nice little bit of stuff. But the DOP on this is John Seal, who he did like The English Patient and like a Harry Potter movie and a few other things. And I wonder, this is just one of those things where it's like it's so intensely visual, and that I wonder if that's the Brendan McCarthy of it all, or if that's the the George Miller. I don't know, but I don't want you. Be no slave.
Yeah, it is kind of the inverse of that.
The reverse Diet Coke.
Yeah,
the Coke Zero adverts. I didn't really realise for a long time that Coke Zero and Diet Coke are just the same, but marketed at the different genders.
No, they taste different.
But they basically have the same end goal, right? Like there's less sugar in it or whatever. I can't tell the difference in taste, honestly.
Really? No. Coke Zero to me tastes exactly like regular Coke.
Really? No, it doesn't, you mad fuck. What are you talking about? Right, that's it. This is what we finally fall out over.
No, I mean, the
hill upon which we die.
Because obviously Diet Coke came out at a time when they couldn't really replicate the kind of same taste, so it had that thing, and then it became its own thing, and people preferred it. So
if you look at
to keep it like that.
If you look at the marketing for them,
yeah,
there's this gender split. Yeah. It's really weird, and it's like men don't like to be fat, but they like cars. Women don't like to be fat. They like men mowing lawns with their shirts off.
But I think more than that, though. No. But I think also it's a timing thing. I think because Diet Coke obviously came out in the 80s.
Oh, it must have been. Yeah, been.
So I mean, at that point, yes, I think there was that assumption that women like to watch their weight, men don't have to. And then obviously nowadays we're like, no, men have to put the effort in as well.
There's that Mitchell and Webb advert. There's an advert for the woman, and it's like it goes like, "You're fat, tired, you're fat, you look tired, you're rubbish at cooking, and your children stink. And then it's like, buy all these products. And then it cuts to the man. It's like, you're a man, drink beer and shave. It's great. You don't have to do anything.
It is true. I mean, I think, certainly...
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot. Like, if you go look at male grooming products now in Boots and whatever, there's this whole litany of stuff, like... moisturisers and all this stuff. Anyway, Mad Max
which cost
Fury
a fucking fortune. I mean, it's like men's face wash, and but then they put things that they go like, oh, it's got carbon in it, right?
This one looks like a grenade.
Alpracin, I have never understood this fucking thing where they got Vicky Butler Henderson, who used to present Top Gear and then Fifth Gear, to do the voiceover, and it's like, and they're like, it's got caffeine in it, and it's like. And they say that like it's received wisdom, like it's like you should ask no further questions. And then at the end it goes like, Alpracin, caffeine for your hair, and it's like, well, I think why is that a good thing? Can someone tell me why I want to rub?
Well, I believe caffeine is supposed to stimulate hair growth, but it's one of those things they can't say because it's not true. So it's like it's one of those. It's sometimes marketed for hair restoringness.
Bullshit. Like the thing is as well, like if you drink more coffee, technically won't you be more stressed and be more likely to lose your... I mean, it's like, that's bollocks. Like that's no one's that's just like so that's just again that's the guy who sat around going like I didn't come here to debate, the Mr. Incurious. Sat there going, oh no, but it's caffeine in my hair. And like and thinks no further. It's like what's
sorry, yes, you remember.
Talk about the film.
There's music coming from inside my flat, but there's no one else here. So I'm going to go see what that's about. Yes, I'll let you talk about Furious Road for a moment or two. I'll just go investigate that.
Well, Rich is going to go and be murdered now, so I'm going to talk about Mad Max's Fury Road. Yeah. I don't know. Well, obviously we've got to the point where we've discovered what Furiosa is actually smuggling, which is Immortem, Joe's brides, and which is disgusting. Obviously, it's this whole thing of like he's sort of keeping these women captive and breeding with them and stuff like that. And he is, I mean, he's a gross character, isn't he? He's this sort of like horrible slug of a man, but he's massive and he's got a big, skull face, and he keeps women captive, and he's this marauding, awful, sort of pustule-ridden person who has to be covered in sand, and then these weird sort of whatever they were, like body shell things, and again, none of that's explained, is it? Because it's kind of. Oh, sorry, you're back on you.
No, yeah.
I was talking about Immortem Joe. It's like he's just sort of.
He's kind of just diseased, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just like, I guess because he's the queen bee, effectively, of the hive. He's kind of at the furthest stage, I guess, is possible for the thing that they've all got, whatever that is. It's sort of anemia.
And they're all supposed to be his sons, aren't they? Because he's basically manufactures babies, and then I think they kill the females apart from, like, it's all very...
It's gross. Like, it's
gross,
disgusting, and that's obviously what Furiosa is trying to liberate the what are they called? They're not called the wives, are they? They're called the...
Are they called the wives or the brides or something?
The brides, yeah, brides maybe. And they're all sort of supermodel, like, which they would be, it makes sense to sort of.
Yeah, they're his concubines. He's got his harem, like. And I wonder, is he supposed to have? Is it like a breathing thing? He's got the mask. He's got like those bellows around his neck, and he's got his kind of like you're saying, they put him in that kind of pressurized plastic suit.
Well, you never find out, do you?
And it doesn't matter.
Gets ripped off his face, and
it doesn't
dead,
matter.
So.
Like, this is one of these things.
No, but that's the thing.
A YouTube video about like, oh, he has this disease from it. It's like, no, it's not the point. He's supposed to be kind of diseased. That's the point.
It's like that detailed thing that Red Letter Media did on Darth Vader's suit.
Yes,
that's some sort
so
of fan
good.
Wikipedia. It's so funny. It's so ludicrous.
God.
The same thing happened with RoboCop, didn't it? They like did this cutaway image of what he looks like inside, and he had this kind of like he was in some sort of vacuum sealed bag inside. Like, what the fuck is it? So I can go to space or whatever. It's like, oh, fuck off.
Go to space. Oh, don't say it, because someone's cock just twitched in Hollywood there. That's what they're going to fucking do.
Oh, man. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a great sort of... It's one of those things, like we've said this about the Predator and the Alien and everything. It has its own internal logic that clearly someone's thought about. You don't need to. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
It has a verisimilitude.
Unless that's the story, it doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of. I think Folding Ideas did a video about Annihilation, the Alex Garland film. There's loads of videos kind of like speculating on what the alien is and where it comes from. It's like, that's not the point. The alien's a metaphor. No. Like, you're wasting your time. You're pissing in the wind.
That film, didn't it? It got a lot of shit for being, and it like, don't get me wrong. In areas, it was quite pretentious, but I thought it was quite good. I quite enjoyed it. I liked visually it amazing, and yeah.
Alex Garland's a really interesting director. I really think so. Ex Machina is one of my favourite movies of the last kind of 10 years, probably. I really like that.
We did. I did Alex Garland when I was doing my degree.
Did you?
For my literature stuff. And yes. Well, everyone has to at least once. But taste from the Alex Garland font of literacy.
It's literacy font.
Yeah, it means it's cock. No, Alec. We did obviously the beach and that kind of stuff, and I agree. I think he's someone who sort of has managed to segue between mediums quite well. Actually, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. And like I say, Annihilation was fine. It was just it fell into that thing which we're in danger of doing a lot, which is sort of here today, gone tomorrow stuff on streaming. It's like I was trying to remember what was Extraction with Chris Hemsworth that's now getting a sequel and stuff, and it was like we watched that, enjoyed it thoroughly, but it was gone in 5 minutes because it wasn't like there was no fanfare or anything. It was like, here you go, here's a film that hitherto would have been released in the cinema and you'd have had to have got in your car and driven there and got a babysitter and all that shit. And now it's like, here you go, done, next. It's
That's
like,
one of those. The streaming bubble's kind of started to burst a bit anyway. It's just become like, people have gone back to piracy because why wouldn't you?
Well, you
can't centralise that, I suppose. Like, piracy's on the up again. It's like, well, yeah, because I saw this fucking Lad Bible or something were going on about, like, Sky have got a new server that's only £1 a day. That's 28 quid a month.
Well, or 31.
Or depending on the in February, 29 on a leap year. But, just to average it, like, it's like...
What's 365 quid a year?
That's a sort of bargain. Like, what the fuck, mate? Like,
No.
Pay what? I can't even...
Prime is 80 quid a year or something, so fuck off.
It's like you can get fucked. Anyway, Mad Max Fury Road, that this people are going to be...
What was I... Oh, yeah, well, like you were saying, like you were just talking about, but the problem, here's a classic example, right? If you don't release on streaming worldwide all at the same time, then you play into that piracy. I've seen Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser. How have I done that? It's like, well, because someone sent me a link, basically. I think someone who had a screener link sent it to me, so I'm not getting anyone in trouble. But it was a sort of proper link. But like. But this is the problem. If you don't release it across all your platforms all at once, you're fucked, because then whatever territory will just get pirate copies of it and watch it that way. So you need to... Now you're in a position where, it's, ironically, because we used to do it all by territory, and they used to release stuff, in staggered form. It's like, you can't do that.
Well, there's no excuse for it anymore. I mean, now it's just distribution deals and existing territories and TV stations, stuff like that. But like, there's no excuse for it, because like, you can have if you've got a fucking... the level of internet connection which every movie studio has, if you've got a fucking, let's just say 1 terabyte master of your film in 4K, you can send that overnight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to, like, I used to know someone who worked as a runner at one of the distro houses down in Soho, and they would literally, like, post drives around, encrypted, so that does still exist to an extent, but fucking hell, you can ship things across the world in a week now.
Oh yeah,
you can send a fucking data stream across the world. Like, come on. Oh yeah, the guy with the metal nose is great.
Drink.
Yes, exactly. It's like an apocalyptic Father Jack.
Well, he's got proper cankles, hasn't he? He's got sort of proper elephant feet.
Yes, he's got all kind of gruey sort of. It's it, because we're nearly we're 45 minutes in, and Max has still got a trowel on his face, which is kind of great.
Yeah. Oh no, it's great. I mean, again, like, don't any sort of I have no antipathy towards it. I suppose it's apathy. My sort of apathy stuff is more my own taste. It's not because I think this is a bad film at all. It's just not my thing. If I'm in the mood for it, God, yeah, this is brilliant. Much as I am with Blade Runner, if I'm in the mood for Blade Runner, it's fucking great. If I'm not, which is most of the time, it's tedious, drivel. But it isn't. It isn't that, and it is one of those. It's exactly one of those films where it's like, if you get something out of it, then it's good. You know what I mean? Like then it did its job. And that's fine.
And do you know what? If I was around someone and we were having some drinks, they were like, "Should we put Fury Road on?" I'd be like, "Yeah, fuck yeah."
Yeah,
because this is brilliant, and it's not mindless whatsoever. This is brilliantly engaging, entertaining, well thought out film. Do you know what it is as well? It's very, very cinematic. It never feels kind of televisual. It never feels kind of, and it's got a great live action cartoon vibe to it.
Yeah,
you know, it's just this really balls out. If you described this to me on paper and told me it was an anime, I'd believe you.
Oh
put it that way. It's got. I love this. All the Volkswagen Beetles or whatever they are.
They are. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, they are
fused together to make this mutant lorry. It's fucking great. So good. I love that because Max looks like the skull motif when they put the tram on him.
Right.
That skull logo's kind of everywhere, which is really cool.
Well, he's a sort of facsimile of what Immortum Joe looks like as well, with that.
The teeth, they kind of they kind of horse teeth or whatever the fuck he has on them. Yeah, and the skull thing, because the War Boys are made up to look like skeletons, and they've got kind of black on their noses and black eye rings and stuff, and there's all that kind of stuff throughout it. I mean, in terms of it's a very art designed movie. Which is insane because inside of the cab is all the Joe logos on the steering wheel is all kind of embezzled. No, that's not right. Embossed. It was not.
Embossed,
they didn't get there via means of financial crime. Just to be clear.
But the banking system is still alive and well.
Yes, very good. Yes, they still got broadband, and they still get.
Look, like I said, it is style over substance is a sort of pejorative usually, but in this case it really isn't, and it's like I would love to see more movies that are like that actually, because sometimes you need style, this idea that we must always be po-faced and sort of never make something look good just for the sake of it. I mean, and the internet has really played a big role in that, which is that sort of that fucking thing of like, but it doesn't make sense. How does he get the thing? And it's like, it doesn't matter.
It's those fucking Cinema Sins videos, isn't it? It's like, ping, you picked up the key despite the fact. It's just like, no. And then it just breeds fucking arseholes who think they know everything. And but the problem is like, why, as filmmakers, why do we listen to that? Why do we think that they? And this has always been the problem with the internet across not just filmmaking, but all every facet of society. Is like people pandering to what they think are people with a loud mouth or a megaphone or that speak for everyone, and it's like, well, clearly they don't. Clearly they don't. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, it's just, and I just wish they'd do more of this. I wish they'd just go, no, I want to use, as you said, this is so cinematic. I mean, this embraces its cinematic look and goes, I'm going to make you feel something with every frame, and it's not going to make, you're not supposed to go like, yeah, but how did it no, you're not supposed to know A to B in order to understand Z if you're American. But you're just supposed to feel. So look at that fucking shot. Yeah,
like suddenly you get put.
And then
it
reveals
away.
The motorcycle on the rocks.
Exactly, it's
that
beautiful.
one comes into frame. The thing when he eats the two-headed lizard at the start as well. The reintroduction to Max, beautiful, really great. It's full of storytelling. Like every. I think it's very easy to misconstrue what cinematic means, and I've come against people before who think that cinematic means that something blows up, and that's not what that means. You know what I mean? Or it looks expensive, looks nice. And it's differentiating between television and film, and that gap has closed, as we've talked about many, many times. And to me, cinema means using every trick that's available to you, or as many of them as possible. So, you have visual storytelling, so you use camera movements and motion to tell your story in a way that you can or have to in a kind of 90-minute format that you can't do across 10 hours or whatever. And then music and sound design and, everything. And just the way that format works. Again, this gap is closed, but for example, nothing was in widescreen on television forever. Whereas all movies were widescreen, right? So you would use those wide formats to tell your story, which nobody could do on television. Some things were shot kind of open matte, but that was about it. They weren't the same. Now the gap's closed, so it's really hard to differentiate them. Like, I just think, like, I heard someone say like Prey was like a TV movie, and it's like no, not at all, because it uses all of the visual storytelling elements time and time again, and framing and using cinematic framing used to be dictated quite often by the fact, not exclusively, but a big factor was that it was wide, and if it was like CinemaScope or anamorphic, it's even more so, and you just would not get that on television. You now get anamorphic television shit. I think like the Chris Chibnall run of Doctor Who, to my eye, is anamorphic. You know, it's Doctor fucking Who. That used to be shot on video in 4:3. Yeah, it is. Trust me. Okay. you just had the same term for it,
dude. No, I mean television has been cinematic for at least 15 years. I mean, Sopranos arguably was one of the first ones that sort of did that.
But its storytelling is long form as well.
That's yeah. Well, exactly, and I you know, and then the extra layer with television now because of streaming is you're not writing to, you know, you'd be filling an hour slot on television with 3 ad breaks, say. You'd be writing to a crescendo every 10 minutes, which means that, or 8 minutes even, so which means that, you know, your story is dictated. You know, that 24 was a big, I guess that was more
massive, that literalized
obvious
that,
because of
it really leaned into it.
Well, exactly, but it was more obvious because of the real time aspect. But it was that thing of like, you would always have to have a mini cliffhanger every 8 minutes of some sort because you were leading into an ad break, and you wanted people to keep going through the ad break because they were going to pick up the story. The story was still going through the ad break, right? So you had to pick it up when you got through. Which was a really, you know, I'm a big fan of that show in the sense of like I loved how it was. It felt like a real when those series got it right, they felt like these insane, almost 24-hour just movies that you could sit through, and it was and it was fantastic. And they were played in a genre that I really liked, sort of thriller, spy, you know, action genre, which was fantastic, and a lot of RoboCop people in them as well. So you should like it, Richard.
I watched the first 2 series. They just sent it to fucking Sky, didn't they? So I can't watch it anymore.
Right. Well, it's all on Disney Plus. It's all on Disney Plus now.
I'm not doing it now. Fuck's sake.
I would say watch to at least season 5, because season 5
days of my life with ad breaks, and I'd have to make my own ad breaks to make it add up. I watch 15 minutes of ads every episode on YouTube.
Well, in season 5, the main antagonist is Peter Weller, so just saying. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Look at this muscle car tank is so good, and the guy, he's like a judge, but his thing's made of bullets. It's great.
Right. So, yeah, and it looks like chainmail as well, doesn't it?
The classic tell of a TV director such as it was, and I don't need to denigrate TV directors, but the quote-unquote tell of a TV director moving to film was they framed everything to the centre.
Yes.
And didn't use that real estate, but now everything's on widescreen, so it doesn't count anymore, and everyone's like, all fucking screens are widescreen, except for cunts watching things in portrait. The devil's ratio.
It is the devil's ratio.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm going to stall while I look up his name. Tommy Lee Wallace. There you go. See, I don't even have to. It came back to me. So, not to get too deep into it, we on my DX2, which is mine and my partner's partner, lover Ronald. I don't know why I went into Sean Connery.
No, because you were going via the Dutch cops from Harry Enfield.
The Dutch cops from Harry Enfield, okay. But it sort of went weirdly.
One to Sean.
A bottle of scotch. I'm only borrowing your Humvee. Anyway, we long story short, we put some money into Pennywise, the story of it, which is with our good friends at Dead Mouse Productions, Gary and Gary, and who, you know, not to name drop, but I know Richard Jackson. Yeah, Richard fucking Jackson, DOP of Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story.
Thank you.
Coming out soon, very soon. And I'm sure to win lots of. In fact, it just previewed at Sitges
in Barcelona. Yeah.
And that's an acronym
for the love of horror this weekend as well. Chris is going for the love of horror, but by the time this has come out, that weekend would have passed. Never mind, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, but Tommy Lee Wallace, who made it, the miniseries, spoke about that as well, because he said that, you know, like that. I think that's a really good example of something, now watching it back, that really managed to get its toe, though having to tell its story in 4:3, really managed to sort of create a cinematic atmosphere through the score, even though the framing does have a lot of characters walking into the middle of frame and talking to each other. I think that was a really good example of something that managed to be both televisual and cinematic. And you're right, it's hard. Cinematic is a sort of nebulous term.
It is a bit, yeah. It is a bit, and it's something that people level perhaps not quite understanding it. And I think what it means has shifted significantly.
For sure, yeah.
Because there's definitely there's an appeal to the old way of doing things which no longer exists, and there's the idea that pan and scans and stuff that you'd have to then, which is how most of us watch all this stuff. You know, there's like, why has it got black bars on the bottom and everybody's tiny if you got it like widescreen on a 14-inch TV or whatever. Yeah. And then like the concept I watched some of my favourite movies for the first time, pan and scan, chills my blood. But there we go. That's where we're at. You know. So yeah, George Miller. So George Miller is a very interesting dude. Like, I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's like Michael Crichton in that he was a doctor, I believe originally. Okay. But you just look at his rap sheet because he did Babe Pig in the City, the second Babe film. Obviously, he did all the Mad Max films, of course. He did Babe Pig in the City. He did Lorenzo's Oil. He did both the Happy Feet movies. And he was developing the famous Justice League pitch, which seemed, from what people say of the scripts, was very much in the tone of the animated series of Justice League, which I would have quite liked to have watched. The George Miller Justice League
Immortal, wasn't it called?
Was that it? Justice League Immortal?
I think so.
Justice League Immortal, Joe.
Hey, if I hadn't been for Immortal, Joe, I'd have scored me 12 kilos of blow.
A long time ago.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Immortan Joe? Where did you come from? This week's Tracks from My Ears by Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe. It is great. I love something that's come a bit of a meme is like, you know, when someone doesn't do something so great, someone else can post a picture of him going mediocre, which is a wonderful fucking catchphrase. It's so good. And I just love all the dialogue in this is right. I'll pike her in the spine. Like, it's all like cartoon. It's almost self-parody because like George Miller invented this kind of post-apocalyptic Australia thing. And it's almost self-parody. It's got its own kind of syntax and everything, and it's a little bit kind of Lewis Carroll-y, but then it also has all the stuff that obviously like Australian English borrows from Aborigine terms and stuff like that. Like, I just think, and it's really unique. If someone does an Australian accent and goes like, "I'm gonna spike you in the gizzards, you blimbo," like people think you're talking about Mad Max.
Yes, you're mediocre. Yeah, mediocre. Do you know what as well? I think obviously the not even subtext text really side of this is that thing of, like I say, I think it creates that feeling of it's that balls to the wall thing when you get people to surrender their hopes and aspirations and therefore their humanity in a lot of ways. It's like, and that's what Immortan Joe is like. Whatever that, again, it's never really explained, but he sprays them with that fucking silver stuff in their mouth.
Because they have rituals, right? They have codifications and rituals, and it's a cult, and they talk about Valhalla, and it's being subsumed by a kind of culture or a cult, right?
Well, I love that moment as well, because it's kind of like, that's his moment of glory, right? Immortan Joe.
Yes. He anoints him and sends him.
He anoints him. He jumps on the tanker and then immediately fucks up because he runs down it and his thing hooks in and he flips backwards and he looks like an idiot. And it sort of speaks to kind of like, you know, that's the point, is this is all fucking stupid, right? I suppose it's a comment on sort of organised religion in a way and cults and that kind of stuff. But it's like it has its own internal logic, you know. Like I say, it's that verisimilitude thing. It's that thing of the characters in it take it seriously, but the world is ridiculous. It's the same thing with Superman the movie. You know, it's like that was Richard Donner's whole thing, right? I know you're not a massive fan of that film, but the whole point was we need, everyone in the scene has to take this seriously in order for the audience to go with it, because it's ridiculous. It is stupid. Like, it's that whole thing of like, well, you know, I think Kevin Smith said it, or someone said it about like, for some reason it's easy to sort of convince people that a man can, you know, fly through the air, than it is that he can convince people that he's someone else by putting on glasses. You know, it's
Right.
like, why are people picking at Superman for, like, you know, putting on, you know, all that? And but the point is verisimilitude. The point is, it's like, no, everyone in this universe buys it because it's not about what literally happens. It's about what this says about, you know, humanity and what we are, and that's the greater truth. That's what's more important to speak to. So that's what cinema does. That's what storytelling does. You know, that's the whole fucking point. You know, and people are so sort of, what's so remarkable, and you know, and again, I don't want to fall into that trap like I talked about earlier about people assuming certain voices on the internet represent everyone, because they really fucking don't. But there is a degree of illiteracy out there when it comes to film, you know, but it's a medium that everyone consumes and therefore has an opinion on, you know, so it's a really hard one to square, you know, and so I remember when I went through a period, I don't know if you did, but I went through a period as a teenager where I was kind of pretentious in the sense of, I remember going and seeing, like, with my mate Jimmy, who is a dear friend of mine, lovely dude. We went and saw Ghost Dog. Do you remember Ghost Dog?
Oh yeah, the Jim Jarmusch movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really loved it. We both really loved it. We went and saw it at the Arts Cinema in Cambridge, and we walked out huffing our own farts in a bag made of straw.
Right.
But
made of straw.
I don't know. But we walked out going like, oh, that's really good. And you knew, right? If I could, I basically was a fly on the wall. My older self was a fly on the wall at that point. Standing there going like, we were both going, that was really fucking good. Yeah, we really like that. And you knew we didn't know why. Like, we were both standing there because neither of us wanted to go, I didn't get it. You know, but and that's a film actually I'd love to watch again, because I haven't seen it since then. I would love to see it because it sort of fell by the wayside. You know, it was an arty film, and but you know, Forrest Whitaker is
Jim Jarmusch is the kind of classic American indie darling guy, but he always skirts the mainstream. He did that movie, The Dead Must Die, that had like Adam Driver and Bill Murray in it, and Iggy Pop. He puts Iggy Pop in things all the time, Jim Jarmusch.
Right.
Coffee and Cigarettes was the one. Steve Coogan and Alfred Molina share a really amazing scene in Coffee and Cigarettes, and it's loads of people playing themselves having coffee and cigarettes.
Okay.
And it's like Bill Murray's in trouble now, but Bill Murray serving coffee to it's like RZA and GZA from Wu-Tang. But there's an amazing scene. Sorry, I'll digress a minute. Steve Coogan, Alfred Molina arranges to have lunch with Steve Coogan in Hollywood, and like he's found out that they're cousins, and Steve Coogan's like really doesn't want anything to do with it and can't hide it. It's really brilliant.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Anyway,
nice.
Sorry.
No, not at all. No. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, but it fell into that thing. So Jimmy and I would discover films together like that, and I think because we didn't want to back down, we both went, "Oh yeah, God, that's brilliant."
Dude,
so
of course I did that all the time.
We did not have the vocabulary to sort of understand why. They were. The thing is, they were great movies, and we both discovered The Big Lebowski together. And I think at the time we both laughed our asses off and thought it was brilliant, but we had no concept of why it was so brilliant. And that's what I've loved about that film over time, is that every sort of generation of myself, if you like, every decade that comes around, and I'm knocking on 40's door now, and it's like, I know I will watch that as a 40-year-old and go, I love this for all sorts of other reasons. I love this for,
your
you know,
taste mature and stuff. And
yeah, but that has always remained the consistency, even back to when I didn't know what the hell I was talking about and couldn't verbalise why it was such a great movie. Anyway, that was my long rant about illiterate dickheads, because I was one. And I do understand it, but I think when it comes down to like, yeah, but Eddie Murphy's going to be the Riddler, it's like, do you know what? Just fucking shut up.
I was a teenage film studies student. I mean, if you think I'm insufferable now, I have no idea what that was like. Fuck me. Come on, I'd come out of a time bubble and slap myself.
I blame Toby.
Oh, well, that was pre-Toby. That was A-level time.
Was.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't meet Toby till I was part-time student. So I didn't meet Toby till I was in my 20s.
Good.
But it's his fault too. just to be clear, it's his fault too. Yeah, so going back to that era, actually, so something I wanted to bring up is in my A-level film class, I believe it was the wonderful, really wonderful teachers for film studies called Tanya and Toby. Tanya and Tony, sorry. And they were really great teachers, and they really showed me my passion for film. I owe a great debt to Tony and Tanya. And I think it was in Tanya's class one day, because we'd alternate teachers. She was like, okay, This film is called Babe 2 Pig in the City. And bear with me, because I just want to show you the context of a scene devoid from context. This film was directed by George Miller, who directed the Mad Max films and such, and Lorenzo Zorro. And there's a scene in the centre of the film where the Babe, the titular pig in the city, is hounded by the other animals and kind of lynched. And like they hang paper, and it's just this scene that's insanely dark. It's this really dark, and it's a bit like when you watch a modern Peter Jackson film and it has those moments of being really Peter Jackson. Like all of them, all of his movies have a moment where it suddenly goes like fucking Bad Taste or Meet the Feebles or some weird close up. Sam Raimi. They go back to their weird indie roots, and like there's this scene in the middle of
and so they should, you know.
Too fucking right. There's one of these things. I'm pretty sure it's Tanya's class, and it was this really great thing she did. She was just kind of like, okay, watch this. What the fuck is this all about? And we watched this. She was like, look how this scene's constructed. Look what he's used from his past. Look what he's used from his style, and he's brought it to this mainstream children's blockbuster film. And it's possible to have those moments inside in places you wouldn't expect to find them.
Right, yeah.
And when I think of George Miller, I think of that class.
Yeah, Gremlins often, obviously Brad and Mark and other Joe Dante fans obviously cite Gremlins 2 as having this.
Brad and I did our video on Gremlins 2.
Indeed. I must watch that film again. I love this scene. So this scene does that thing of like playing with the whole kind of day for night photography thing, you know, like everything's got a blue hue apart from the things we want you to look at. So the guy on the electric guitar guy is still illuminated for some reason, and in the car in the truck.
I really don't like this scene.
Do you not?
It's done for effect. I know why it's done. You know, it's expressed. It's done for effect. What I really don't like about it is because in this of all movies, it's so visual, so it's fine. But what I don't like is like when you see this selected things or the people. It's like someone's done a circular mask in Adobe Premiere and feathered it with the original LUT underneath it, and it's like. Oh, I can just see behind the curtain too much here, and it really because that's just a circular mask, like dropped on the page. Or a colour picker at best.
Well, because it doesn't follow the in-camera lighting, right? Like in the instance of that guy who was just in the car, like the light was static, but when he moved forward,
and this was ever the problem. This was ever the problem with Day for Night.
Yeah, of course, but then I also think it's kind of like. Part of the story. I do think it's about like if you break the visual style and make it literal, it doesn't work anymore.
I know, and this is it, and I should just shut the fuck up because it's doing.
I hear you because I know what you mean. Because when you start seeing behind the curtain like that, you're like, oh God, it takes you out. But that's not the point.
And also, it's really expensive to light the entire Australian outback. Probably shooting. I found something really fascinating about Justin Peele's most recent film Nope, which was shared with me by our friend Michelle Hsu, who's
Michelle's wonderful.
She's coming to the screening on the 1st, by the way.
Oh, awesome!
My cinematography kind of right hand woman. She sent me this clip with Hoyte van Hoytema, who's the DOP of that movie. That's got loads of Day for Night in it, and it's because it's got loads of vast kind of countryside. And he said, well, of course, the classic thing is you can't just light a whole field. So we shot with 2 cameras, and one of them was only shooting. We shot day for night, but one of the cameras was only shooting a certain proportion of the infrared spectrum. So when we combined the 2 cameras, it created nighttime. And if you watch Nope, which I was kind of lukewarm on in principle, I knew mad about, but fuck me, do those nighttime scenes look like nighttime? 100%. Never would. Yeah, they look amazing, and it's this. And I found that Michelle sent me that clip. I was just like, "What the fuck? Like, what kind of science shit is this?" Heston Blumenthal making a cheese toasty with nitrogen. I was literally going to say it's the Heston Blumenthal of cinematography. You and I are fucking weirdly similar. And I look vaguely like Heston Blumenthal.
And like me, bald men. If you put me and Heston Blumenthal in a blender, you'd come out.
Yeah, I'd come out. Yeah. And then dress the resulting mulch as Harry Hill.
And Harry Enfield, the two Harry
Enfields. Yes.
Yeah, I used to get told I looked like Harry Enfield for a while, and then it was Daniel Radcliffe, and then now it's a small arse with that was left on a barbershop floor.
A small arse,
a small arse,
pocket-sized, a travel arse, if you prefer.
Play arse. fun-sized arse.
Travel arse.
Arse.
Arse. They're happy because they eat arse. We haven't said anything about...
They do it on purpose, Lynn.
We haven't said anything about old Charlize. Because
Or it must be said Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz, yeah. And Rosie Huntington-Whiteley just got smashed by a monster truck a minute ago.
Indeed, yeah. But I mean, Charlize is fucking ace and everything. And
she's phenomenal. She's amazing.
Not to name drop, but I have met her. So.
Oh, really? Oh, what? What on?
Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh, of course.
Okay. Yeah. I was one of her guards on that, and she was fucking funny. I only did a couple of days, I think, or 3 days with her, like actually in her presence. She baked cupcakes on one of the days for the crew, and she had an enormous potty mouth, but she was very funny.
Oh, really?
No, she was hilarious. Yeah, she was fucking great. She was really fun, and she was just like, fucking... Like, she doesn't take it too seriously.
Is she the legendary chain smoker we talked about before?
That
was always a thing with her. She's like this legendary chain smoker, which I immensely respect.
I don't remember seeing her smoking a fag, but she could have been.
Here, Duncan, would you like one of my cigarettes? Surely said,
I took the filters out and put them up my bum.
I like to eat them with broken glass. Pull them out and then smoke them.
Well, I hear I have legendary thoughts, so I had to put the filters up my arse and smoke these cigarettes with it.
I'm the only Academy Award winner whose farts you can actually see. My dense, glassy farts.
I have to change the filters, like, when you have the extractor fan above your ob. that does not air to atmosphere. That's when you have the filter.
I've got to change the filter in my bloody arse.
In my arse. So... All right,
Academy Award-winning actor Charlize Theron.
She's someone. She. I often cite her as an example. There's increasing numbers, but also still pitifully few female actors, or we don't say actors. Factors. Who have transcended the kind of love interest, mother, grandmother cycle, who it's one of those things where you kind of, it's so hard to, because here's the thing, like, you kind of go, like, stories need to be written about women in all aspects of life, obviously. I understand, like, where the old golden age stuff came from, where it's like, they're a love interest, see, or they're the grandmother, see, and it's like, because a lot of female actors would fall out of the industry because they were going to have kids, or they were going to do, they would decide to
and it was everything was run by men then.
And also it was a studio system where you were trying to tie people into contracts and stuff, which you couldn't do with someone if they were going to go on. You didn't really have maternity leave, did you? Because
paying people off because they saw Cary Grant beat a tramp to death or whatever happened that week.
Cary Grant beat a tramp to death. Has anybody seen my diary? Monday, twamp. Tuesday, how about free. Sorry, I don't know why, but yeah, it was that kind of. Cary Grant likes to beat homeless people. Homeless people.
Christ.
Anyway, I'm not sure where that impression is going. Let's leave it alone. Charlize Theron has transcended that thing of, like, and what. She's an example, but she's not. The problem is like, it's not an excuse. That's what annoys me when people go like if someone goes like, oh, there's not enough characters written or like protagonists or lead characters written for women of a certain age. People go like Charlize Theron done Monster and won an Oscar, and it's like, yeah, that's one thing. That's a Hollywood A-lister winning an Oscar for a star vehicle. That's very different to, like,
and it's based on a documentary. And
and it's great. I watched it with my wife not long ago, and it's still great, still a great film. But, like, it's total, pre Harvey Weinstein or pre Me Too Harvey Weinstein Oscar bait.
Yeah.
It's good Oscar bait. Like, it deserves to do well, but it's like that thing of, it's like that doesn't excuse you never ever. Like, because the problem is at the level that I operate at, and it's like it's all low rent horror and action. And stuff.
Baby,
again,
low rent
not
horror.
A problem.
Woo!
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Just like Touch You Bleed. No, but you know what I mean. It's that kind of thing. And it is, and I say this in the sense of like the tide is turning, so it's not like we're making a lot of great progress, and I'm trying to stand on my soapbox, but I think Charlize Theron is someone who's managed to at least get projects made where it's like she can be who she is of her age, and there's no sort of like, why aren't you loved up, or why aren't you a mother?
You know what? I think she's gone into that Sigourney Weaver space.
Yeah, but
where
even
kind of star
Weaver,
power to. Well, she would do comedies and stuff, but then she was off producing shit, and you kind of felt like she was doing things that interested her.
Yeah, she did like Copycat and stuff.
I think she's sort of managed to carve this niche, and old Charlize is in a similar position.
Yeah, that's true. I think of her. That's very. Do
you know what? She would be amazing in an Alien. Oh no. Oh no!
Oh my!
Oh my!
This isn't very nice.
A Rolling Stone is worth 2 cigarettes in a bush. More bush.
I'm having trouble passing these shits.
Serve the public trust.
She's someone. The good thing, I suppose, the thing with Charlize Theron is that early on, obviously, she was a model, and she's one of the most beautiful people in the world.
Yeah, she's one of those insanely beautiful-looking people. Yeah.
But she has this thing of like, therefore, not giving a fuck what she looks like in movies. It's like, here she looks like shit, but that's good. That's part of the point.
Yeah, she's got. I love because they're doing like a prequel about Furiosa. I think that was.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, and it's not her, but I think she's like producing it or something. Nice. I don't know, but it's not her. But she's like I love the thing where she's got the kind of top half of her head painted black, and she can't.
And then here it's in shadow, right? So it's kind of like
so you get
her head's always
a nice bit of kind of visual cinema again. And she's competent enough to be a war boy essentially, but she can't be because she's not a boy. But she's like amazing what she does. She's a great Brendan McCarthy character, like I said. She's got that kind of asymmetrical outback cyborg thing going on.
That was actually that moment there with Nicholas Hoult eating the bug off the girl's shoulder. That's a really nice moment that's a really nice moment of storytelling, right? Visual storytelling, which is like you've got this guy who essentially separates men and women for their biological function in his enclave or his society or whatever, right? And he sees women as being purely there for reproduction and men there as sort of drones who go out and fight and collect things. Although his greatest warrior is Furiosa, but that she turns on him. And it's like, there he is finding a purpose, right? Just in that moment, it's like, by being reunited with the yin to his yang, or by caring for someone and channeling his masculinity, I suppose, if that's probably the wrong word, but his sort of tendency for not violence, but like aggression or something. He whisks a bug off her shoulder, and it could have been, and then eats it. Because he's disgusting, but he's suddenly given he's given something to channel it towards, something to use it for. And that's Nicholas Holt's character goes on a huge journey. I mean, Furiosa goes on a journey as well, but it's like, I think of any of them, Nicholas Holt's the one who's, it's almost like he starts off as this tabula rasa character, and is there and is sort of molded by events and turned into,
well, they get to become themselves again, don't they? And they both lose their makeup as they wear on and stuff like that. And she obviously goes back to her actual roots, naked lady oil rig. Here.
Naked lady with a great ass.
Great ass.
Oh, she got a great ass.
And kind of also, Al Pacino's not the greatest actor ever. He's just in lots of gangster films you like. Sorry. We talked about that before. But
I think Al Pacino's great, but I do agree with you.
He's a tremendous actor. He's a tremendous actor, but he's the greatest at the craft ever. And it's like, okay. That rope burn must have been off the charts.
Oh, what up, the clacker.
It cleaved me in two, man.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in cinema and thinking like, oh my god, that is the most beautiful I've ever seen descending from a pylon.
I've seen some women descend from pylons, but this one, oh my word.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my word. I don't know what that was. That's a straight victim. Oh yeah, they got their special Outback head handshake.
That's right.
Let's press heads together, mate. Oh, I'm so
Oh,
glad to be back here.
I'm so glad to be back, yes, in the outback with you. This is the thing: is all Australian women are destined to look like leather handbags.
I read so this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm going to take it anyway because this is hard. A tangent. This has hardly been filled with insightful analysis so far. Apparently, there's an episode of Peppa Pig, and you might end up getting into this because you've got a kid.
Oh, I watched Peppa Pig, yeah.
There you go. So there's an episode...
Hey Dougie, mainly, but Peppa Pig.
Hey Doug, okay. There's an episode of Peppa Pig where Peppa makes friends with a spider, and it's like, oh, this is Ollie, 8 legs, and don't worry, he won't hurt you, he's your friend. But in Australia, they don't show it. Because it's like, in this country, that's not true. And we can't tell that to 4-year-olds. Like, go play with a spider, because a spider's probably bigger than them. But yeah, apparently it's an episode of Peppa Pig they won't show in Australia because its messaging isn't quite in line with the reality of life in Australia.
My daughter's nursery gave her a Peppa Pig book for, I think, Christmas. And it's Peppa Pig meets Kylie Kangaroo. And, of course, I do the voices when I read it to her. So Kylie Kangaroo is sort of, we have this whole, and it's like I always do voices when I read things because it's fun. We're doing Elmer. Who gives? I don't want to be this guy who obnoxiously talks about it because it's funny. She does funny things that make me laugh, and I think it's the best thing in the world. But I recognise that no one else gives a fuck.
They seem quite kind of fecal from what I can tell.
Oh well, yeah. God, at the moment, yeah, she's got the shits. She got sent home from nursery yesterday with the shits.
There's a sentence.
Which luckily my wife was off today, but she, in anticipation of a nice day off work, she then had to do childcare. And by the way, everyone, you still have to pay for fucking nursery, even if they send them home. So that's wonderful.
Even if they shat everywhere.
Even if they shat themselves. It's like when someone rings you up. I don't know why I answer the phone when it has a local area number on it. Because it's inevitably...
There's only bad news comes from that area.
It's inevitably someone from the nursery going, hello, is that, such and such daughter? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know what my fucking area code is.
She has had 3 loose poos.
Loose.
And it's like, and obviously, if anyone out there works in bloody call centres or customer services or whatever, please never use the prefix obviously when you refer to something, because it's the most insulting thing. If you ever took 5 minutes to think about it, it's the most insulting thing ever. If it's obvious, why do you have to tell me it? If it's you're essentially making me out to be a complete and utter moron. Don't say obviously she goes, obviously our policy is if they have 3 loose poos, and they can't come back for 48 hours. And I was like, oh right, so my wife and I will just not work for 48 hours.
Loose poos, kick off your Sunday shoes.
Please, Louise, don't feed my daughter cheese.
She's lactose intolerant.
Indeed. But my thing was just like, you've been feeding her for the last 2 days. What the fuck? Where the fuck else would she get this from? And it was just like, for fuck's sake.
Oh, yesterday was room temperature prawn day. We left them out on the windowsill especially, and then
under a lamp.
We give the toddlers
LED
black
lamp.
Coffee afterwards. What of it?
It's a black coffee. Espresso and
room temperature shellfish and espresso. Obviously, we find it gives them the get up and go they need.
And then we give them all magnesium.
Just a big tub full of prawns on a windowsill.
Lots of roughage and magnesium, and then send them home. Anyway, yeah, so that's been anyway, dude, like, honestly. But the thing is, it's like, it always used to dig me off when people I knew who had kids would bang on about shit like that, and I didn't have kids, and I was like, oh, fuck, who cares? Now I get it, humble pie and everything, but I also don't want to be the guy who just talks about his, experiences as a parent. But it's fucking hard work. And that's with one. I don't understand these people who have like hundreds of children and somehow still
are alive.
Yes, I'll never understand that. But anyway, Mad Max.
Yeah,
Charlize Theron that's one thing I would say. Like Charlize Theron, someone who never went off and had her own kids. Did she? She adopted children, I think.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah. Not to, again, and I'm not one of these people who thinks it's important to understand someone's personal life. I really don't. But I gather that she did. But much in the same vein as someone like Angelina Jolie, who has had her own kids. But look. I mean, going through like having a child with my wife, both of us very career driven. I get why if you were, and I have friends who are actors who've had kids, who are mothers, for whom it's been. I get why it's difficult when you're bringing up a child and you kind of go suddenly. This is not quite as important to me as it once was, or like things priority shift. So it's no wonder that. So it's that thing of like, it's not purely, it's not some fat cat in old Hollywood who's probably dead now twiddling a cigar and going, no women, she. It's not that. It's also not, it's also the fact that roles need to be written and faith needs to be put in the fact that there will be an audience for it. Because I think there will. This idea that you can't watch a film and have any connection with it unless it sort of represents exactly you is ridiculous.
That's absurd.
It's absurd,
It's
and then therefore
completely absurd.
Like Monster, for example. Let's talk about Monster. Monster's a film I connected with him like in loads of ways. Because those films, the point of those films was like serial killer films when done like that. Were like there's a part of you that goes I can connect with that, and that's the horrible bit.
Just the whole kind of I can't identify with them. It's like, what the fuck are you on about?
They don't look exactly like me and have my exact backstory. It's
you can't identify with E.T. because he's an alien. Like, what the fuck are you on about? You dense cunt. Like, that really fucking boils my piss. That does. It's like, what? So we can't tell any stories unless it's specifically about a man named Gary who lives on Wandsworth Drive, and he has to be at 46, or it won't make sense to you. Like, what the fuck? I know. So insane. It's such a ridiculous thing. Like, what breadth of storytelling do you enjoy, you fucking idiot?
And that's the kind of person who loves, whatever, like bang, smash, crash, Superman, James Bond, whatever. It's like, I don't quite understand how you identify with a super spy and or super alien or whatever.
Gary, you sell windows. I hate to break it to you, but you are nothing like Indiana Jones. You might want to take a breath, but you're not like that. You got the clapping of Witherspoons once. You're not that guy. Don't get any highfalutin ideas because you can't identify with a woman that has a robot hand.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the thing that always goes wrong with James Bond is that there's this assumption, I think largely born by people who have never seen a James Bond film in their life, that it's a sort of blueprint for men, and it's like I do get the aspirational end of it. I do. It's not that doesn't exist, but it's like, most people don't want to be in peril for their life, and looking over their shoulder. It's like they don't want to be. They don't actually want the life. They
even
want
pretending to do it as Daniel Craig does is immensely exhausting.
Yes,
you don't want to do forever.
Exactly, and it's like it's the point is it's like you want to be competent. I think the appeal to the sort of red-blooded men is you want to be competent in scenarios, and James Bond is someone who's competent in extreme scenarios. But it's not like you want to be in those scenarios or be that person. You simply want to be recognised as being sort of competent. But the point, and I think Daniel Craig films did this brilliantly, which is a sort of thing of like, but it's still a very lonely existence. That's the thing of like, but you're a spy, you're in the shadows, you never get recognised for it. That's the sort of irony of James Bond in the real world. It's like this: he's very visible, but in his world, no one knows who he is, really, apart from depending on which ones you look at.
It's quite a sad life,
and that's the point. It's that sort of like it's sacrifice, and it's not. It's sort of like you're living life for yourself, and that's fine. But it's kind of like all the things you're doing really aren't for anyone. You're for the greater good, but you don't get to sort of reap the benefits. Anyway, sorry, I've.
We've not
I think
on topic much here. It's fine.
I suppose not, but I suppose to bring it back to this is it's like again, it's that thing of like. if you watch Mad Max Fury Road and complain because there's no representation, it's like, it's in the future. It's a post-apocalyptic future. You know, look, arguably closer to that than we have been for a while, which is horrible. But you know, come on, represent. Oh, sorry. Are fat people on ventilators complaining because or something,
or blind flame-throwing guitarists? Why isn't he the main character?
Exactly. It's so ridiculous.
Well, I think this is so like to paraphrase Charlie Brooker, in which I think he was talking about 24, but I can't remember. But to paraphrase that, it's like, this is so far-fetched it might as well be set inside a tiger's eye. And it's like, if you start applying that lens to this, like you said, because if you watch, I love how the kind of kinky guy's like playing with his nipple when he gets the news.
The big fat dude's he's got nipple rings.
Through his suit, which is great. You know, this is.
It's quite Cenobite-esque.
It is a bit, actually, yeah. Yeah, stuff around his ears. You know, this is basically a fantasy film at this point. You know, not really, but it basically is. Like, it's so fantastic.
And that's fine, you know. I think
totally.
Fine.
It sets that stall out early doors.
Yeah.
Like,
God,
you know, if you start applying the lens of realism to it, you're gonna have a bad time. I like these the kind of the smoke bombs in the sky.
I was going to say exactly the sort of flares that go up. It's like
flashes of colour. It's quite
well. It gives you. It's a great visual representation of geography, right? Is that you know where they are.
Yeah.
When they do that, you go, oh, so the bad guys are over there. Because when you cut to the perspective of the good guys, that's so great. You know, it's such a nice motif to sort of just throw in there because. But it shows that someone who's got a real sense of like, this is the story we're telling. It's on the go. You know, it's like we've had I guess, what would you say? Is it second act, middle sort of lull? Now we're
getting into the third act now. Like, we're back in with the chase.
And the third act is just going back the other way. So you already know what the distance is. You already know what's coming. That's a great way to tell a story because you know it's not dramatic irony in the sense that you don't know what's going to happen, but you know the obstacles between here and where they're trying to get to. And
it can be very important to establish, like you say, geography and a very tangible sense of space and time. Yeah. I don't mean time period, I mean the time passing within the narrative and their location in the desert, because it's flat, right? So you need to show where they are within that.
Everyone's got a sense of the stakes now as well. Like, you've gotten to that point. Everyone knows what the stakes are. Everyone's clear on their mission. Nicholas Hoult, he's committed 100% now. You know what I mean? Like, everything is like, right, crystalline. We're going here, we're doing that. You know, and that's but we've spent the first two acts establishing the stakes of what that is and literally going through it. You know, it's, I suppose it's sort of like that whole kind of, isn't it, was it a Churchill saying of like, when you're going through hell, keep going, or whatever. You know, if you're halfway through hell, keep going, because that's the point. It's like,
right,
don't stay where you are. You know, keep going.
Really
and I think
the hump of hell.
yeah, you've broken the back of it.
Might as
of
well
eternal torment.
Halfway through eternity. Yeah.
Are you a glass half full man?
You're a perdition half full man.
Kirsty, are you a glass half full? So it's like but it does it really well. That's a nice sort of like, you know, it's just literally a this to that to that to this. Great. Wonderful,
yeah. It's you know,
and you've got to face the oncoming. Now they're oncoming. They're not chasing you.
It's the good kind of chase movie formula. You know,
yeah.
There has to be the kind of lull, like Duel or the Terminator or Logan's Run. You know, and you use those breaks to build character and motivation and establish what's going on. You know, and expand. And I think some chase movies don't quite pull that off, and you just have boring scenes because they don't know what to do with the characters. You know, they just know that they have to stop for a bit, and they just stand around saying platitudes to each other. Whereas something like this, everything that's discussed is meaningful, and it moves the plot forward and stuff like that. That's what it is. It's a really good marriage of the kind of, you know, high octane chase action and then excellent character work. And, you know, it's very clear who everybody is and what they want and why they're there and what their kind of hopes and desires are. Like having a gold nose and pierced nipples.
Well, he sort of runs her over and that has orgasms, doesn't he? It's kind of like,
kinky elephant-footed bastard.
Yeah.
It's got a leg like a doner kebab.
They do it on purpose.
They do it on purpose, Lynn. This is something that, like, if you said to me, "Do you want to work on this?" Obviously, I'd say yes. But also the reality of just being constantly around sand must be so fucking horrible.
Oh, God, mate,
It's
honestly.
totally
So,
grim,
when you're an actor, right, and I guarantee you, even on productions that are at this budget level and higher, you are getting into clothes you've been in for weeks on end that haven't been. Because the thing is, it's like it's got to have continuity on it. Right?
Sweet continuity, yeah.
See, like Tom Hardy's costume can't look like it hasn't been covered in sand. So it's like either you have a constant state that the costume is in, and you have the different levels, and that's probably true of this. But there are points where it's like you've got to get in this for probably a couple of weeks where it hasn't really been washed.
It's like the first stuff they shot that wasn't real dirt, and by the end it probably is very real dirt. It's like this is some sand.
It's kind of. I mean, well, for example, Mia and the Dragon Princess, which is something that we both worked on last year and is due to come out soon. I don't know if my
it's got a Steam page. It's got a Steam page now. I should probably post that somewhere so people get on it.
But that's an example of something I had to get in every day that wasn't really clean. But then the point was we've been crawling through caves and stuff.
That's the thing. I love turning up on set, like, and you see the talent, and they're wearing the same clothes, and it's just like, because I've been like, oh, should I wear these trousers twice in a row? And then it's like, yeah, the cast are wearing the same shit.
Oh, boo, fucking
day.
who?
Well, exactly. This is the thing. This is what I mean. I get on set and I'm like, no one gives a shit. These guys have been wearing the same costume for a month.
But the funny thing is as well, because we all stand around watching it, looking at each other in those costumes. So it's like Lucy, for example. Lucy Quinlan, good friend of mine, she had this sort of green top and beige trousers that she was just in the whole time. Yeah. So anytime I see those two colours together, I'm like, oh, that's Lucy.
I'm back there.
Yeah. It's like
Mike Geary was dressed as Indiana Jones for that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, because the great thing about that production was like everyone is established in their clothes. I mean, it is annoying, but at the same time, it's like the passage of time is.
It all takes place
in
one
not real time, but
day
it's like exactly. So it's kind of like everyone's in the same clothes, so the clothes become a motif for the character, and which is quite funny. So and good old Geary in his Indiana Jones get up. It's just like because he's essentially a tour guide, isn't he?
Yeah.
But no, he was great in that. Bless him. But so that's part of filmmaking is getting in sweaty clothes. You're in because sometimes you got to run in them, and sometimes you got to spend all day in them, and it's quite revolting.
Revolting. Yeah, on a thing like this, I mean, fucking hell.
I mean, I'm sure he had lots of versions of it and stuff, but.
So I just sort of going back to kind of like set life type talk. I did like a training film earlier in the year, proper crew and stuff, and I gaffered on it under this DOP, who I won't name. He's a lovely guy, but like I just don't want to say. He said something quite personal to me. I don't repeat it, as it seems a bit crass. But he said to me like he's DOP. He's quite young. He's probably in his 20s.
My foreskin's too tight.
I can't pull it back. Can you help me? And I did. No, he was basically saying like because he does commercials and stuff like that. And someone said to him, "Do you want to work on films?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Oh," and he just goes, "My dad was a DOP on movies, and I never saw my dad. Like he provided for us, but I never saw him. I'd never do that. I want to have a family, and I would never do it." And he was so equivocal, like because he'd been raised. So I was thinking earlier about like the lifestyle. Because I don't have kids, obviously, and I'm fine with that personally. I just think, fuck me, like, because we make money, but it's not guaranteed. The whole industry could shut down next week, as COVID showed us, and then literally the irregularity of the work and the fact you have to travel, and it's like I'm not sure the life is conducive to it. What you get are couples who both work in the industry and then they do jobs together and shit like that. That's one way of making it work.
But but more often than not, you get couples who are both in the industry, and then one of them gets a lot of work and the other doesn't, and they're the ones who are sort of forced to look after the kids in the house and all that stuff. And dude, I mean, my wife and I, I don't really talk about my personal life, but my wife and I work in very different industries, but both are quite career driven, and there are times when those clash. And we have to figure it out. And actually, it's probably quite a healthy thing that we both have to reach compromises a lot. but somehow we seem to make it work. You know, it's funny because, like, you know, sometimes one of us will be the breadwinner and the other won't be, and vice versa, and it's just but it works, you know. But and we have a child, and it's very hard, but somehow I think that's a case of you find the right person who you click with, and you somehow can negotiate life with, and it's not easy, but it's fine. I, you know, and I'm very grateful for that, because I couldn't have my life. You know, I thought for a long time I was like, right, I'm an actor, that's it, everything else comes second, and it's like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't, you know. But it does also. It doesn't come first, you know. It's like you can have a life on your terms, you know. But you have to be clear about what that is, and yeah. I mean, I think I look at, you know, stuff with people who I don't think I could be with someone in the industry, because I think, though I have been in the past, but I just think it's actually probably quite unhealthy if you're the wrong kind of person for that. And yeah, dude, I mean, having kids and being in this industry is really difficult. But, you know, I think it's, you know, I don't know. I just think, yeah, but I also want a life. I think if I just sat around here thinking my whole life is being an actor, I'd be pretty depressed.
You shouldn't give yourself totally to any job, I don't think.
No, I agree.
I'm very dedicated to my work, but it's not my whole life.
And you're very fucking good at it, but you're...
Thank you very much.
No, dude. I mean, you are. And Richard and I have made a documentary together, which I'm quite enthused about.
It's about Charlize Theron.
It's about Charlize Theron's arsehole.
And our bowel movements.
And the bowel movements. It does have a South African in it, though.
That's true,
Which is true. But, and he's wonderful. But yeah, but not Charlize Theron, alas. But no, man. I mean, like the thing is, I just think when you sort of let go of how you think it's supposed to go, that's when, you know, that's when it gets easier. Funnily enough, that's when the things sort of fall into place, and you just go, right, fuck it, that's okay. Yeah, but anyway,
this feels like a commentary when we're drunk, but I for one am not.
You're not, and I'm on my way.
Well, you're just whiskeying. That's all right.
I'm whiskeying, but yeah, I'm not drunk. I'm sorry. This has just turned into a kind of
we're both well off topic. It's amazing.
Yeah, apologies. Sorry,
some people are going to find that not amazing. Some people thrive on the off-topicness. It's a hard balance.
Look, look, I think the thing is, like, we come at this stuff as people who work in the industry, and I think if you want an insight, as far as, you know, anecdotally though it is, you know, if you want an insight into what it's like, this is what it's like for us.
You're gonna die alone unless you get a Tamagotchi. Anyway, here's a 5-minute bit about a lady's farts.
I have a Winston and a kid and a wife. I'm doing all right, and a garden office now.
I've got quite a comfortable chair.
Well, I sacrificed. So
you did sacrifice comfort for today.
I did today. No, so my full disclosure, when lockdowns happened and all that stuff, my wife got sent home very early to work from home because she was pregnant. And what came with her was an office chair that was very nice and had lumbar support. And I have used that for the last 2.5 years. But it had to go back the other day, and I had to buy my own office chair. And I did, but it was on my wife's say-so, because she went, I found this on Facebook Marketplace. And for 50 quid, I bought myself an office chair, and it's fucking horrible. So I am thinking I'm going to have to invest a few hundred. This is the thing, when you get yourself your own office, you realise that you have to buy like a heater and a desk and a chair and a fucking, you know, all this stuff, and flooring and that kind of, you know. But, so I'm slowly building up. I bought a bin the other day that was 25 quid, and it's not very big. But it is aesthetically in line with what we're going for here. So there you go. 25 quid for a bin. It's made of bamboo or whatever the fuck it's made of.
We were like 30 when we started doing this. Now it's all about bins. I used to be like, I used to come and record stuff with you guys, and I'd go to like a fucking like a warehouse party that evening. And now I'm just like, I went to Tesco and bought some transparent storage boxes yesterday. I was really quite excited. That was my thing to do as a break from work because I'm doing post-production. I was like, I need some small transparent boxes to put leads in. I actually had an extension lead turn up. I was really excited about it. It sits on the desk and has USBs on it. There you go.
Oh, well, dude. Well, maybe it's the same as I'm considering one of those.
Oh, I can send you a link. It's got a braided cable, but it was a lightning deal, so you won't get the deal price.
Well, I think it was 27 quid or something for Amazon. It was like had all that in it, and I was thinking because my lights currently work off USB, so it'd be quite handy to have.
It has a braided cable and a place to put your phone.
When you said that,
no, I just like a braided cable because I'm nearly 40. Because I'm nearly 40. I love when she pulls fucking Joe's mask off, and it's like his face is full of guts. It just goes like, just comes off with it. So good. It's a good. Well, it's wonderful because
you spend the whole film going like, "Are we going to see his face?" And then you don't really. You just see it like it will get ripped off, and it's just guts.
She wants to take his bum off.
Oh yeah, we had this. We had a WhatsApp exchange about how face off could be bum off.
Bum off. They identify people with bum prints. It's like, oh well, he sits like Castor Troy, so
on his face.
On his face.
Yeah, because that would be the point: is that the bum is replaced by the face.
The face by the bum. He's got to eat up his bum. Also, so Nicholas, are they all scarified to have? Are all their lips scarified like that? And their noses are scarified as well to create the skull look.
Sort of look like skulls. I think so, yeah.
There is a fairly uninteresting provincial town in Cambridgeshire called Warboys.
There is. My dad lives in it. There is.
Okay, yeah, that way. And when they say Warboys, I can't help but think of Warboys, Warboys, uninteresting provincial town. I apologise. And the thing is, I know they watch this there because they do finally have the internet in Warboys.
They have an airstrip.
They have an airstrip. They have a broadband well. The mayor of Warboys tapped the broadband to give them all internet. They mostly use it for cat videos and pornography.
Pornography. They do it on purpose, then.
Yeah, they do it on purpose. Witness. This
is the tragedy of this film, right? Which is Nicholas Hoult, which is kind of like it's this sort of a character destined to die young for a purpose. He's looking for a purpose, and I guess that's the point of this, right? Everyone's looking for a purpose.
It's because he redeems himself, but
it's redemptive in his arc, and in Max. I suppose the thing with Max is it's like he's a character that's locked out of time.
There goes the guitar. The guitar swings into the frame.
Yeah. So it bungees back.
Yeah. And here comes the steering column. This is great. In the mouth. Right up the arse. It's fantastic. It's a superb shot. You couldn't do that live action.
No.
I mean, you'd be stood around all day flinging steering wheels at a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Mad Max, he moves through the story, but it's just another day to him. This is just what his life's like. And people change around him. And his kind of Max's progress it's very similar to the Road Warrior Mad Max 2. Did you know that there's the version that was released in most places that weren't Australia? They dubbed all of Mad Max into American accents because Americans can understand. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, it's so. It was the same thing with License to Kill. Was retitled
License to Kill.
Oh, the other way. No, what was it?
They wanted to call it License Revoked because Americans. Americans don't have the word revoked. I believe.
I thought it was the other. I can't remember.
We have the word revoked, but Americans don't.
Right.
Apparently, it's one of those god awful patronising things that film studios do. They just assume their audience is dumb.
Yes.
It's just really fucking patronising.
Yeah.
I
know, and it's like it sort of neuters it's the same thing with Return of the Jedi. It was supposed to be Revenge of the Jedi, wasn't it?
But Jedi don't take revenge. What's your fucking idea, George?
It was all pre-planned.
Yeah, of course it was.
Right.
I've got binders full of stories that I wrote years ago.
Well, I've got a dictionary that tells you what pre means.
George Lucas also has a girlfriend who goes to a different school. And
you've never heard of.
He knows how to do karate, but he can't see hurt his leg. Yeah,
his dad taught Elvis karate.
and Elvis owns Sega. And
that's a great. That's a thing. Father Ted did the kind of Billy Bullshitters thing before us, which is what's the milkman's name? Pat Mustard. Pat Mustard has that legend that like when Mrs. Doyle's talking about like, and he taught Elvis karate, and he did all this. Like,
taught Elvis karate.
Yeah. Pat asked me to put his massive tool in my box. What? Yes, too big for the milk float. It's a giant wrench he's got for no reason. It's like, what's that for? Yeah, great.
It is for that joke.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, see, this guy with no legs just comes out of like a hole in the sand, and it tells you something. But you don't need to know why he doesn't have legs, why he lives in a hole in the sand. It's like you don't need any of that, and that's where putting sort of style over substance helps tell the story, because it's like elements like that make some sort of sense, but they don't need. You know, we've got. I don't know if it's the fault of Batman Begins or that sort of movement that started in the mid-noughties of like everything has to have a logic and everything must make sense. And the funny thing is, or the ironic thing is, when you watch Batman Begins, not everything.
I love. We've got to a point now where Batman Begins seems kind of silly and camp, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
it's just such an insane shift. But then Batman '89 was the intensely serious version, and when I don't know, Batman's made out of dead babies in the one they make in 20 years. Robert Pattinson's the Batman's going to seem really dumb and twee, I suppose. And well, I've already made a joke about Ken Loach's Batman when The Batman came out. But
well, yeah, and it's not even that. It's just the thing of like, what's your criteria? Like, what do you mean? Like, what people. For a while, it was realistic, or realism was thrown around a lot. Then it was gritty. Then it was dark.
Awful word, gritty.
Oh, God.
Awful word. So horribly abused.
It's like Batman Begins isn't gritty. I mean, compared to what came before it, yeah. But it wasn't like it was just... It had a weight to it. It had... I mean, I think... For me, it's still my favourite superhero film. But... It's like ever since then everything's got to have this A to B logic, and I don't even think. I think if you go back and everyone and annoyingly, what's even worse, to add insult to injury, everyone cites The Dark Knight as being that film.
Yeah, right.
And it's like no, like
I love how this just casts all of that off. Like, and this is such a great scene to discuss this, because it's this vast human machinery. Yes. Like everything's made out of rusted iron, and there's all these guys turning the wheels, and it doesn't require realism. There's a logic to it because they turn the wheel. I get it, and it's like a slave ship. I get it, but like you're not digging into it and going like, well, that's actually based on something that was in a book written in 1750. No, it's a big vast machine to demonstrate slave labor and the sheer magnitude of human achievement or non-achievement in
and therefore the degree of liberation that's about to happen, right?
Seizing the means of production.
Yeah, well, no. I think it's a Marxist theory. Like,
it is. They all are.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, but yeah, it's
overthrow the water and stuff. They will rise up.
Yeah, with the power of my thoughts.
Ownership.
So I guess they finally do away with Max's interceptor in this one, do they? Because he leaves.
I don't think it's established what happens to it, is it? Because
it's at the start of the movie. I wasn't paying attention. I think the War Boys take it as their vehicle, and then I guess it gets destroyed in the chase because Max just goes. But maybe that's not. I'm probably wrong, because like that's very much his Walther PPK or whatever, the old interceptor.
Yeah. I like this, though, that in the sense that does feel like a handoff to Furiosa, right? Because the film ends on her, not on him. Yeah. He disappears into the crowd, and it's like she disappears.
It's great how they obscure her with that perspective.
She's rising, he's disappearing.
Yeah, and
he's not falling. It's
another day in Mad Max's life.
Yeah,
or Miffed Malcolm.
Yeah. It's fine. It's great. It's fine. I don't wish it any specific harm.
It's great. It's fucking great. Like, I really don't want to downplay it whatsoever. It's a great, great movie. It's just,
it has it. I don't think you can really find fault with it, in the sense of like the only fault you can find with it is just like, oh, I wasn't in the mood, or it's not my thing, or the subjectiveness of it, but as far as it's so like naked in terms of like it's like, no, this is a story we're telling. There's no like ambiguity around what they want to say with it, how they want to say it, and what they want you to feel about it, you know, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I think that's probably why, you know, because I do think a lot of modern cinema got well up its own arse about you know, trying to paint this picture of like, oh, if you don't get it, the problem is with you, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Which this doesn't do. This goes like, if you don't get it, that's fine. But this is what we're doing. So, you know, get on board or don't. Whatever. Fuck off. Like, it's fine. You know, it's fine. So there's no this. I think therefore there's no ill will. If you come out of this going, yeah, it wasn't for me, as we sort of did when we saw it the first time, I think you kind of go like, yeah, but I'm not upset by that. I'm not going like, you're not trying to tell me that I'm stupid for not getting it. You're just like, well, it's either your thing or it isn't. You know?
Well, there's something that really annoyed me about The Last Jedi. I really don't want to pull this thread, but it's just
but
like,
pull it, you will.
Pull it, I will. But there are other examples, but it's just kind of like, oh, well, you didn't get it. You just didn't get it. And it's like, and just to be clear, like, I really like Knives Out. This is not a Rian Johnson thing. I'm not interested in your thoughts on Rian Johnson, whatever. But that movie in particular is kind of like, oh, well, we've subverted your expectations. It's like, to what end? I absolutely got what was in front of me. I just thought it was weirdly constructed, not very entertaining. Like, just to say to me, oh, well, you didn't like it because you didn't get it. And there are a few things like that. So you didn't like it, you didn't get it. And it's like, well, maybe I did, though. It doesn't become, if you just understand its motive as a piece of art, it doesn't automatically make it good. It's a bit like the kind of, you get these kind of concept films all the time. Snakes on a Plane is a concept film. It's a funny idea, but it's not a movie. And it's like Sky Captain the World of Tomorrow was a bit like that. It's kind of like, oh, look, this is an amazing idea to do this new thing. But the actual watching of that is quite tedious. You know, and it's just because it's a good idea, it doesn't therefore a good film make.
For sure, because you've got to translate it through the prism of cinema, right? I mean, the Last Jedi was one of those things where it was like, it was so indecipherable, people politicized it, and I think all the political, you know, all the things people tried to, the allegory they tried to ascribe to it was like, oh God, you're clutching at straws, because what you want is to prove there's some sort of agenda here, and it's like, no, I think the point was they just thought subversion was the way to go, and it's like, I didn't like it, I didn't agree with it, but it's fine, you know, they do what they want. Can you just see it as that instead of going like, no, it means that Donald Trump would, no. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I think it's actually about wizards. Like,
I mean,
Rian Johnson's
Space Wizard.
Well, Rian Johnson's trying to say things about. He's trying to say things about sequels and expectations and stuff. That kind of thing, I think, is very clear.
Yeah.
I just don't think it works. I get it. I just don't think it works. I don't think it's interesting.
No, I agree. It's not where I would take the sequel to the first sequel, essentially, to the Star Wars trilogy. You know, it's not what I would have done with that. When you had the cliffhanger of the last film, which was Luke was there, and then it's like Luke sucks the tits of sea cows or whatever, and it's like, I don't. Yeah. I just.
Hello, Richard here. We had a bit of a technical problem halfway through the credits when I believe Duncan was saying sucking on blue cow's tits or something, where his mic cut out. So if you're listening to this, because that bit of audio was missing, but it was only the end of the credits. We were going on about Rian Johnson forever, and then the film ended. So we're sorry about that. But we're going to be back again soon with another commentary, so thank you for bearing with us. Duncan, I can hear him. You can't. He's mute. But we'll be back soon, so thank you for tuning in. And next time we see you, it's going to be a stream or a show or one of these. We just don't know. Like and subscribe. Go check out our Patreon. We love you. Goodbye. Love you. Goodbye. Love you. Goodbye. Love you. Goodbye. Love you, goodbye. Love you, goodbye. Love you, goodbye. Love you, goodbye. Love you.